I like to talk. I am a talker, all right? Writing is
This is
different.
what Chris mentioned. Like being pragmatic about the things that need to be done. There is a tendency for you to be
Exactly.
paralyzed by analysis. I think we've heard it before when they say analysis paralysis.
Yeah. In a way, because like there are some things that we are better at than other things, right? So it wouldn't be too difficult to identify what we're good at and what we're not. So I think my advice would be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. As
Hey.
you can see, we have an additional member today. This is very, very weird,
Hey.
but hopefully it's going to be fun.
Why
This
is
is
it weird?
Chris, and you know the rest of the party. Nobody cares about their names. Uh, Chris, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit, and then let us get into it?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. Like I mentioned, my name's Chris, and yeah, like this gentleman over here, I dabbled in chemical engineering way back when.
What do you mean
Uh,
you dabbled? You have a whole degree in it. You can't be dabbling in
got a
stuff.
whole
You can't say
degree.
that. People will think that no, please do better.
He did it
People
as
will
a
think that we
hobby.
kidnapped you for so
Yeah,
exactly. Like you didn't graduate from this stuff.
I made it sound like a hobby. I'm sorry. I've got a whole qualification in chemical engineering.
Congratulations.
Thank
Nice.
you.
Congratulations. Even though it's from South Africa.
That was way back.
Continue.
But anyway, my career is, well, for the past 5 to 6 years, has been more or less in the alcohol industry where,
Oh, nice.
what's-
That's the
yeah,
fun part.
But why? Who likes to drink here? Why are you saying nice?
I
No,
like
it's
to drink, by
great.
the way. Yeah, that would be,
Okay.
yeah.
No wonder you chose that career path. We see why now.
Yeah, so yeah, long story short, I was involved in the alcohol industry for about 5 to 6 years. And I was basically jumping between production roles, such as an operator. Then I kind of moved into the management sphere of it. Um, and then a little bit into the consulting towards the end as well. So, yeah, that's basically where my expertise lies in that industry. But currently looking at expanding into the green economy, and I
Okay.
think the alcohol industry presented a good crossover into that field, considering how many ways you can actually apply green economy principles to alcohol production. So yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. Career wise, at least, yeah.
Uh, well, anyways, so you graduated from university as a chemical engineer, right? The very first thing is, have you always wanted to be a chemical engineer? Or have you always wanted to be an engineer in general?
Yeah. I always wanted to be. I think when I was in high school, I was privileged enough to be. I would say I was part of a program that was held by a big company, Sasol. So we were doing extra
Mm,
math and science on the weekend, but I like how
no,
strategic
you
they
were a
made
student. Oh,
science
you're a good
lessons.
kid.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. So in
Congratulations.
that, they introduced us to the concept of chemical engineering. I mean, I didn't really know what it
Mm,
was up until I started doing that program, and I was there from the time I was like 15 till I was 18. So I already knew kind of what the career and the field was about. And
interesting.
they
What you were
brought
getting
this one
into.
dude. I think he was like 27 at the time, and he gave us a talk. But then I was just mind blown by how knowledgeable he was. But then he also had a really cool car, so I was like, you know what? I want to get a really cool car as well.
Wow. They
Motivation.
sold you a lie. Nice.
So
No.
yeah,
Okay.
so I think that was one of the cool propaganda instruments they brought to kind of like buy us. And you know what? The funny thing is, from that group, that cohort from Sasol, I think only like two or three of us went on to study chemical engineering, myself being one. So yeah, I kind of really just wanted to get into the field ever since I
Okay.
was
Basically, you were
in high
gullible.
school.
You saw car, you chose car. I hear you. I hear you.
I did have a question around
Serious.
like around you choosing, and I wonder, do you know what happens to the other people who did not go into chemical engineering? Like, do you have ideas of what they did even though they had that exposure? Because I think that's an interesting thing, right? Like, we had a conversation on one of our recordings
This
where we said
Sasol
like
explosion.
exposure to different
Yeah.
careers might have helped us make better decisions. And so I wonder if
Because
like
we
those
all
people.
kind of, wanted to choose different things at the end of the day about
Yeah,
about
so like, do
engineering.
you have any idea what happened to the rest of your cohort from the Sasol program?
Yes. Do you know what? It wasn't just Cecil. I think it was spearheaded by Cecil, but we had
Mm.
quite a couple mining companies come through. BHP
Oh,
Billiton, Dow,
oh.
etc. A bunch of other
Mm.
guys came through. So
Your school was good, huh? Your school was connected. Your principal must have been getting paid a lot.
yeah. It was something like that. So a lot
Nice.
of them, as well, the ones that I kept in touch with, went into mining engineering, and a
Okay.
couple of them pursued a lot of
Yeah.
careers within math and science. So it
Mm.
wasn't too far fetched from what we were doing. So it was very much math and science related fields. So
Okay.
even if it was like computer science or applied math or
Doing
whatever it
okay.
is, or chemistry
Yeah.
or something like that, but it was very much in the STEM. So that's the science, technology, engineering, and math fields.
Sure. Was everyone exposed to
Um,
this, or only those good in math and
No,
science? Like, did you need to
yes,
be
basically the group that
originally
was
good in math and science to
selected.
be exposed to it?
yeah, that's right. That's right. They looked at the
Oh, okay.
best performing
Okay. Okay.
students in math and science, and they
Mm.
gave us like an entry exam, which if you passed, you could partake in the
And
program.
then
So yeah, it was kind of like a selection criteria.
you
They did want to
qualify.
just pick like the
Okay.
guys that were doing really well and get them into that program.
And did they give you
Okay.
scholarships for your university education, or
Oh,
was
I
it
did.
just that you went and you
Okay.
studied and then found your own way?
Well, look, we thought we were gonna be we thought we were going to get like scholarships and stuff from them. That wasn't the
Yeah.
case. We very much had to like find our own way afterwards. But if
Mm.
nothing else, I'm just really grateful that they exposed us to a lot of the different fields within
Yeah.
science, technology, engineering, and math,
Exposure.
so that
Mm.
we kind of knew what we were getting into from a very early age.
True.
Yeah.
All right.
That's really
So
cool.
I want to ask this, man, and I thought it was interesting because you
Yeah.
you are basically Congolese and South African, and a mixture of you are multicultural, right? And so are we, in a way. So the question would be: do you think if you were still back home in Congo, if you consider that home now, or do you think you'd have still followed the same line of thought, even if you were not necessarily exposed to this particular field? Since you
Mm.
said by the time you were 15, you didn't exactly pick, you didn't know what this field was, and until you were exposed to it, that was when you decided that. Until you saw the car, that was when you decided to follow through. So if you saw car from like maybe a gang leader, do you think that's where you would have ended up?
What?
Because clearly your motivations are very short-ended, very,
Why are you?
short-sighted.
Okay. Just to clear it up, the car was a bonus thing, right?
Yes.
That was a bonus
Sure,
thing. So,
sure. Bonus.
but great question anyway. Uh, Great question. You know what? I don't think, like, honestly speaking, had I been back home, I would have gone
Mm.
into that field. And I'll tell you why. It's not a field that anyone in my family ever really went into, one. So I wouldn't have any kind of like reference from anyone. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm.
Right? And then
Yeah, yeah.
secondly, the
Reference.
opportunities are quite limited as to what you can and can't study realistically. By that I mean you can study anything, but then in a country like the DRC, you want something that's gonna give you a long career, right?
Mm.
So it's quite limited what you can actually go for,
Ooh,
considering the barriers to
question.
entry that exist in that kind of place.
Mm.
Question. Did your parents have any influence on like what you decided to do? Did they talk to you about it? Were they part of the selection process? Did they even voice an opinion of what they wanted you to study growing up? And also,
Yo,
how were they around education? Were they strict? Were they loose? Did they, stuff like that?
around education, they were very, very strict. but that's a good thing. Like looking back
Yeah.
on it now, I realize that yeah, they would probably just like
I
looking.
mean, it's you. They just they didn't trust you to do it yourself. I
They
understand.
trusted me. Like, but anyway, they had a lot to say because you know what the funny thing is, bro. Even when I was doing the whole math and science thing on the weekend, my passion was writing. So I always thought that
Oh.
I'd get into journalism or the law profession. In fact, I had an
Okay.
You
aptitude.
do look like a journalist, actually.
Yeah, I kind of look like a
Ayo.
journalist. Yeah, I get that a lot.
Okay.
Okay.
So, so I wanted to be either a
Okay.
journalist or a
Okay.
lawyer, but
Yeah.
Congolese parents again, I think on their end they didn't really have any point of reference, so they couldn't be like, okay, we know somebody who's a successful journalist or this or this or that. I think my
True.
dad sat me down the one time and he was like, "Look, you can always like write in your spare time, but I feel like since you're also good at science and all these things, there's a lot more career
Mm.
opportunities in there. It's a lot broader." Whereas he believed journalism, law, etc., was narrower of a career path. So that kind of informed their decision making in pushing me in that direction. I didn't like it at
All
first.
right.
Formed
Like,
you.
it's math and science. I enjoyed it anyway. So over time, genuinely, that's when I got convinced that, you know what, maybe we're kind of right. But yeah.
No, do you still write now? In your spare time?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 for sure, bro. For
Are you
sure.
are you
Definitely.
asking
Oh,
him?
what kinds of
It's
things
a,
do
Oh,
you write?
what kind of things do I write? I
Like what
blog a
kind of
little bit.
writing? Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
so yeah, it's more blogging, but it's very specific to a few things. Right now, blog a bit about what's happening in the circular and green economy because that's something I'm really interested in. Um,
Okay.
Funny enough, uh, politics has always been interesting and a little
Okay.
bit of history as well. So if I get time, like I'd, analyze a piece of literature or a video and then kind of
oh
give my
wow.
insights on it, write a piece or whatever.
I
So
didn't know you were this deep.
Yeah.
I
See
thought you
what
were
happens
shallow,
when you don't
surface
assume you
level.
know it.
Okay. So would you have you and would you consider
Changing your
like
career
moving to
fully.
writing like fully? Like have you considered it? And is it something that like if money wasn't an issue, if you knew that you would make money writing, would you just
um,
switch to
Oh,
writing or would you
I
still
think to answer your
continue
question, yes,
chemistry
but I
Mm.
and
would
chemicals?
not forego the career that I've gone through, right? So I
Mm.
would, like, yes, I would write if money wasn't an issue, but that doesn't mean I'd only write. Like
Mm.
the other things are quite interesting as well, and I'd wanna
Okay.
like get to know more about them and learn about them because, like, if money wasn't a thing, then the motivation is learning and applying yourself. Well, that's what I think,
Yeah.
at least. So I
wow.
wouldn't like focus on writing solely. I'd also want to pursue those other things in tandem with the
Fair enough.
writing.
Yeah.
I am very impressed. I'm very
That
impressed.
tracks
And
really well
drinking
with
also. Like,
me. That tracks really well. I have a
Okay.
question in terms of your skills that you've picked up from being an engineer and how they apply to how you write. Because you said you analyze things. Do you think that studying chemical engineering in a way has given you a better flair for thinking deeply about a problem, or do you find it irrelevant?
You're absolutely right. And I think Ayo
Mm.
can attest to this. Chemical engineering equips you with this.
I literally
We
said
don't
me.
know that
I was
Ayo can
surprised
attest
too.
to
No,
anything.
no, 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 don't worry. Don't worry. I don't even think I can. And that's why I said me. Are you sure? I've never written a piece in my life.
Ayo,
But it's fine, man.
you both studied the same thing, right? You also studied chemical engineering, did you not?
And then, I'm sorry, I thought I'd come up here and be like, so guys, this week I decided I want to write a piece. I decided to analyze an article, and I thought to myself,
But you analyze
wouldn't it be cool to
movies.
wait.
You
I
analyze
analyze
movies.
movies,
That
Michelle,
that
I
that
analyze
wasn't the
movies, I analyze
question though.
sports, but I've never been like, oh, let me write an article about it. I think it takes a different type of person to genuinely sit down and write about something that they kind of like taking in. I
Mm,
like to talk. I am a talker, all right?
mm.
Writing is different.
No, but the thing is this, Ayo, the topic is not about writing. The topic is about analyzing. And has chemical engineering
Oh,
helped you or change? Do you feel like
definitely.
it's made you a better
I don't
analyst?
even think
That's
a
the thing.
better
Even if how you
analyst. I
express
think it
it is
just in
different.
I think in
So
all
that's the thing.
situations it
That's okay.
makes
But
me
let's
sit down and just think about everything. And this has nothing to do with it doesn't it's all aspects of life. Like even arguments, and I'm not even kidding. Like when I see people argue, I sit there and I think about it from a rational point, like the both people's point of view. And again, and that's why most of the times you guys be like, I'm a devil's advocate, right? And it's not even necessarily because of like I just can't stop thinking about things from different points of views.
Because
Because
you
for
are the
me, it's
devil's
always like
advocate.
that's not the point. That's not the point. The
at this point you're not the devil's
Anyway,
advocate.
Chris,
You're
to
a
you
answer your
see
henchman
these people,
Chris, please
they're not
answer the
real
question.
engineers. They are not real engineers. They're not taking time to analyze the situation. Right.
Yeah.
I think our analysis is spot on. Chris, you were saying, sorry for the
Okay.
interruption.
But I think
So,
Ayo kind of touched on what I was going to say, right? Because I was following his train of thought, and it's
Mm,
exactly that. Chemical engineering equips you with the skills to be pragmatic about things, right? Like
yep.
he said, for example, when he sees people arguing, he'd want to weigh up two sides and come to a rational conclusion based on that. So that's the way he applies it, right? In a way that he can
Hmm.
argue from different perspectives, having analyzed what both perspectives are, and then coming to an end. So that kind of problem solving, it's kind of like I'd call it systems thinking, right? For lack of a better
Yep.
phrase. If
Yep.
nothing else, like you have to take
did you
away
coin that?
technical skills that it teaches you how to look
Hmm.
at things as systems, analyze what the constituents of the system are as far as inputs, outputs, everything else. And then when you're informed about the system, then you make a decision, right? And that can apply in many cases. Video analysis with
Yep.
IO, writing with myself,
Okay.
business with some people, different industries. So it's a core skill I think that you get equipped with
Do you wanna
by studying engineering and especially chemical engineering.
do you wanna hear
Yeah.
something funny, right? And this I actually really appreciate what he said here because I literally find myself like whenever I see a video online or a post or whatever, right? And I sit there and I read it, I want to like it. Like you know that thing of like liking an initial thought of something you just read, and I just can't. And not because I don't want to support it. I just think for myself, right? Like even if I see what you're saying, I still feel like there's another point of view that I'm not that is very that I'm not seeing, and I can't get the entire picture unless I am involved as much as possible. As much as I like what you just said, and I could like it and then see more things related to that, I feel like that is only one perspective. It might be the correct perspective, but since I do not have enough knowledge or enough what they call information about the other piece or where the other people are coming from, no matter how little their views might generally affect the situation, I can't like this or I can't promote this or I can't respond to this as much as I should. And I think that generally
Mm.
applies to most things that I'm not knowledgeable about. And maybe I refuse to engage as much as I could, if
So
that's what I'm trying to say.
we all have like an engineering background, right? So, but it kind of sounds like we're saying if you don't have an engineering background, you
Mm.
may not be a good analyst. So, is there any profession we feel that anyone who has passed through 3 years, 4 years in a higher institution that we think doesn't analyze stuff the way, for example, we from an
I don't.
engineering background
I
will
will go
analyze
first. Oh,
stuff?
sorry. D, you go first. I've been talking a lot.
I wanted to say that I don't think anyone would graduate and not have some level of analytical skill. What I think engineering gives you that other degrees might not, and it's not just engineering. Let me just say the STEM careers. Um, yeah, that other degrees might be the
STEM guys,
operative
yeah.
word here, not like the keyword. So you might
Yeah,
get it and
yeah.
you might not, is being pragmatic, which is what Chris mentioned. like being pragmatic about the things that need to be done. There is a tendency for you to be
Exactly.
paralyzed by analysis. I think we've heard it before when they say analysis paralysis, where you can't find a way forward because you take all the different
Paralysis.
perspectives into view and then you don't know what to do that would,
Thing.
I guess, chart a path forward. There's some degrees you can study that can put you in a position where you're trying to make
Yeah.
everybody and everything win, and it's impossible. When you're faced with the
Yeah.
reality of the situation, it's impossible. So you become paralyzed by
And
that.
that's not
But
possible.
being in engineering, where you know that whatever problem you solve, there's probably going to be another
Okay.
problem that comes out of it, out of your solution. You have this sense of just going ahead and doing it anyway, and then you think about solving that secondary problem, right? You don't stop because you can't solve that problem now.
That
You're more like,
problem.
my primary problem is X, so I'm going to solve for X. And after I solve for X, I know there's going to be problem Y that comes as a result of the solution to X. I will think about how to solve Y. And that's why we obviously have a lot of our research projects that keep going on, right? Like someone comes in, they do a PhD on X, and X births Y problem. And then the
Yeah.
master student starts doing the problem Y. And it goes on. But we are very pragmatic about the fact that we need to get things done. And I think in some areas you
Understand.
might not have that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
just
also
want
wanted
to
to
yeah.
say it's also for me it's
That
how you look at
okay,
things.
Ayo.
I think if you're studying philosophy or stuff like that, you generally have an you are as I feel like you think about things from a more theoretical point of view. You think about maybe the consequences of things as much more than even a engineer might.
Mm,
What I think might be unique about STEM is that you kind of try to absorb as much information as possible, and not necessarily in situation of considering the consequences of an action, but rather the solution to the current problem. Like you said,
mm,
it's like, hey, this is the issue at hand. All right, let us research this issue. Right? I'm just saying, like, get as
mhm,
much information as you possibly can and look for a solution. Now, the solution might not necessarily be pleasant, might not even necessarily be applicable. Because something is the right choice doesn't mean you pick
mm,
that. Like sometimes something can be right but still wrong ultimately, if that makes sense.
mm,
But what I think is unique about stance is like because we are in a situation of solution point of view. Like whatever we are trying to do is to fix an issue in a way. Whatever we are trying to do is to improve a particular situation. So your first thought is absorb, what they call it, assimilate that particular information and then deliver on it, deliver solution, deliver end goals, deliver blah, 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 blah. And I think that's a very unique point of view that STEM generally have. I don't know if anybody else has a different point of view from that. The floor is open. That's what I was trying to say, people.
No, I agree. I think that I just wanted it to be highlighted that like
No,
we're not
that's what we
saying
are trying
that
to say.
other courses don't
that
analyze
is not what we
or
are saying.
go through stuff, but that there's a
If you don't agree with
but there's
us,
a
leave your
pragmatism
cause
that
here.
comes
Sorry. If you
with
don't agree,
every
come
step,
argue
right?
come fight for your
So
cause.
yeah. So um Chris, I want to ask you this: like, if you were advising anyone now on careers, right? What, and let's say this person is, let's say in high school, right? Let's use high school. What's the number one thing you tell them in before they decide this is a career I would want to go to?
Yeah, pull you,
I
Yeah.
know
Chris.
it's a heavy question, but
Rightly said,
you
Biola. It
agreed to
is a
this
heavy
podcast, so
question because there's a lot of
for you.
different variables that go into that decision.
Mm,
But you know what? I can't help but think about, um, doing something that basically fits in with your character, right? Or basically playing to your strengths, as it were. Because I mean, from a very early-ish age,
Interesting.
there are certain
So
things that
your
you need.
argument is sorry.
wait,
So
let
your
him finish.
argument is strength, not passion. Sorry, I just wanted to continue.
Yeah. In a way, because like there are some things that we are better at than other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't be too difficult to identify what we're good at and what we're not. So I
Yeah.
think my advice would be to a high school learner, for example, um, find out the most feasible path to A, building a career from what you're good at, and B,
Mhm.
monetization of your passion. Because look, it's great to have passions, right?
Okay.
But they don't really pay the bills sometimes. So you've got to be very realistic. Bills have to be paid. We can't ignore
Bills have
that
to
the
be
reason
paid.
why we work is to get financial remuneration.
Yeah.
So it would just be research how you can build a career from this, research and know
Mm.
that this is the realistic path to take if you want to build a career from this. And of course, can it give you a sustainable, comfortable lifestyle in the day and
Mm.
age that we're in? Like, if you can answer those questions, then I think you can make an informed ish decision. Because at the end of the day, you are still going to go through it and actually find out what it's about. You wouldn't have all the answers unless you are actually in there. But definitely
What I
start
think.
with that. Because look, it would be a shame, I think, especially for young people, to delve into something they know very little about, and
Yeah.
then only later to find out that they hate what they do, right? Because,
Mm.
yes, fine, it could make you a lot of money, you could build a lasting career from it, but you
Hmm.
have
Yeah,
people at
that's not a
some
nice
point that
feeling.
definitely check out. Like, I've seen this with a couple people I know. They can't wait to check out of corporate because, yes, the great thing about it is that it makes a lot of money, but it's not what they enjoy doing or
Mm.
what they like to do. So the idea then becomes, let's work at this
Very
for a
brilliant.
while, build a financial cushion, and then check out and go do what we're actually after. So I
I
think
think,
that
yeah.
situation could be avoided had we, looked at it from that perspective
Okay.
first.
I
So
think that's
sorry,
prudent. Sorry, Aya, you go on.
sorry. So
From the beginning.
basically, you are
Go ahead.
saying passion over strength because sometimes your strength does not align with your passion. That no, because from what he's saying, it initially started out as maybe stick to your strengths and
Yeah.
then maybe align your passion with your strengths. That was initially what I was trying to get. But let's say that
Yep.
ultimately your passion does not align with your strengths. Let's say you have the body of a swimmer, right? No, the body of a swimmer, right? But you want to run, all right? That's basically where we are. Your passion is running, but your body is built for swimming. Like when you get into that pool, you break world records, but you are crying when you are done because you hate it so much. All right. But when you run like a pigeon. What's this animal that gives stone to their loved ones? Somebody help me out and they live forever. Penguin. Yes. You run like a penguin. All right. All right.
P-
And you are happy. Okay. You are coming off smiling like, oh, all right. So now, what would you do in that situation? What would you do in that situation?
In that situation,
Create a new sport.
yeah, come up with a way to maximize your swimmer's body and fulfill your running passion. No, jokes aside, look, in that situation, obviously you would have to, be realistic about it and go for what you're actually good at. And I'm glad you said that it's more like aligning of your passion with what you are good at, with your skills, right? But then
Mm.
again, remember that skills can always be learned, right?
Yep.
Hmm.
So you can always learn new skills. But like, as far as things that you really care about, things that you're passionate about, those are like fundamental. And in many ways, those actually guide the kind of skills that you can attain or the kind of
Mm.
things that you're willing to learn. So I guess it's
Yep.
really important
Skills you
in that
go
sense.
for.
I think
All right, I hear you.
something that Chris's response just flagged to me was that it is prudent advice to tell people to go for what they are good at, so where they have strengths, because that can build you up to a position where it's easier for you to switch. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with even building a financial cushion, but the skills you learn from that thing that you're good at gives you a sense of confidence. And yeah, and what is transferable when you
You can
get later in
transfer.
life and you want to change paths is not necessarily your technical knowledge of something. It's all your soft skills. It's your confidence in speaking about things, how you communicate, how you write, how you present yourself to other people. Yeah, reading the room. Like it's all these other skills that
Reading the
nobody will ever
room.
teach you, but you've picked up from being good at this thing you don't enjoy, right? Like you, because you don't enjoy it, but
True.
you've had to do it. So you learn how
It's
to
something.
work the room, even if you're not having fun.
Mimic.
And yeah, and that's a good skill to have, because by the time you do get to the thing you care about, that confidence is already there. That ability to put yourself out there is already there. Like you've learned something from being, should I call it repressed, in a way, right? Like from being in a repressed state where you've had to struggle, you've really let something from that you can transfer it. So I think it's prudent advice to tell people, like, go for what you're good at, especially if you're not really sure. And if you're unhappy, it can build you up to a point where you can switch over later. I think that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And that advice for people out there, ultimately from this is from Chris. I didn't say this. Chris is like your passion can wait, all right? But your skills and your strengths might fade.
Chris did not say that at all.
That's what it is. He
But
was
Chris, I have
insinuating
a
it.
I have a question for you about your green economy switch. What aspects, like, so are you going into, let me just first divulge the reason this is interesting to me. So, I did my PhD in chemical engineering, and part of my study was like making a water treatment material. And I had made it from a different raw material, and it ended up that I could use something from the wine industry to do it as well, which was going to be a big thing because it was like creating the circular economy. So I just, out of curiosity, wanted to know if it was something similar for you, where is it something linked to like water, food, and energy, or are you looking at it in terms of greening the process of alcohol production?
I think it's more from a circular economy perspective, to
Great.
begin with, of
Money.
course, because
Chris likes money.
rightly so.
Okay.
You said, for example, you could use something from the wine industry as an input for your water treatment
Hmm.
experiment, for
To make
example, right?
clean water.
Funny enough, those kind of relationships, those kind of synergies exist in many different industries, light and heavy. So I think I was
Mm,
just blessed to be able to identify that. And again, that goes back to having the chemical engineering skills, the analytical skills, because then you could easily see where the synergies were, right?
Partners.
For
mm,
example, let's look at solid waste in alcohol production. That the obvious thing to do is to use that as feed for cattle and
food.
livestock. But then,
Yeah.
having known a bit of the chemistry, you know that it's an organic product. Under certain conditions, different things can
Hmm.
happen to it. And that's when you
Yeah.
realize that there's actually a potential for this resource to produce energy, right? In the form of
Yeah.
gas, for example,
Biomass.
biogas, you know what I'm saying? And then that can be
Yeah.
used for other processes downstream.
Mm,
So I think being in the industry, that helped me see the
other
different
things,
synergies
yeah.
that could exist.
Hmm.
And then it's not isolated to just the alcohol industry, of course. It's
Yeah.
everywhere now. Look, fashion, for
Chris is
example.
like passion doesn't always pay, so you must branch out. And that's thing that Chris is saying, people.
Pretty much, pretty much. So yeah, I think
Mm,
it's a buzzword these days, right? Going green, circular economy, net zero, etc., etc. But um, I think again, this is where the chemical engineering helped, is that you can look at it
It,
pragmatically and say, right, so what are the benefits to this? Realistic?
yeah.
Can we enumerate these benefits? How long
Hmm.
would it take, etc., etc., etc. So basically, it gets you to ask the right questions, and then having
Hmm.
known the answers to that, make informed decisions to go about taking a circular path. So you wouldn't
Yeah.
just like randomly rock up and be like, "We're going green." No, you'd be able to like do the research, look at it from many different angles.
Believe it
We do.
Believe it or not, there are people who rock up and say we're going green with no understanding of what that means. I heard a story. I am not mentioning names. I heard a story.
of course. I
I
think
heard
there are
a
Let's
more.
hear a
story
story. Maybe
of
I
There are
can
more
help.
people who do
someone,
that
no,
actually.
of someone who became HOD of a chemical engineering department and added sustainable to all the research groups. Sustainable XYZ, sustainable, and all the people in the groups were like, what is sustainable about what we're doing, because over here
Wait,
we're working with oil
wait.
and gas, and we're like characterizing different grades of
You can
oil.
make it
So what is
sustainable.
sustainable about that? No, like you're just
Make
basically
that
running the
sustainable.
oil and characterizing it. And he had renamed
What
all of
I'm
them into
hearing is
sustainability,
you are too
What
scared
is
to find a
sustainable
new way to
about
make
that?
oil and gas sustainable. I
they were
give you
not
this
making
project.
oil
I
and
believe
gas.
in you.
What are you
I
saying?
know. You can find a way to categorize it sustainably.
Which
That's
would
all
be
I'm saying.
what?
Don't, that is what the research is for. Why do you think you're doing research at all?
Oh my God. Ayo,
I
jeez.
think
But
Anyways,
yeah.
I think the term is greenwashing,
Yeah, it is
and that's something
greenwashing.
that's happening a lot, right? So like
this are full of terminology, sir.
a lot of fields
Just,
are
just
doing this. Like it's becoming ridiculous. I'll give you an
Yeah,
example. We're not going to mention the specific oil company
Yeah,
because we're
it's a
not trying to
thing
get
now.
sued or anything, but they rebranded and
see
they're
media trends.
really
I
strategic,
think
and
that
it made you think
Ayo,
that
please.
they're going to be focused on sustainable energies, etc., etc., etc. When in
Hmm.
reality, they donate like pocket change to that cause, like
Yeah,
reforestation, renewable energy, etc. And it's business as usual. So they drill for oil, they refine the oil, they sell the oil. That's where the
yeah,
money comes from. The
Usually.
rebranding is more like a PR exercise, if you think
yeah,
about it.
yeah,
can I ask though? Can I ask though? Would you, if you were running the company, would
Yeah,
you do
yeah,
anything
yeah,
differently?
yeah.
Would you choose to, in that situation, when your bottom line is to make as much money as possible?
mm,
Because there's a reason why most companies would go green, as to say, and that is simply because of governmental what they call it,
policy
requirements,
direction. Yeah,
laws and policies exactly, and as little as you can, because because going green is essentially, a lot of people will tell you that ultimately, if you commit to it, you might in the long run maybe harvest a bit more money, if I can put it that way, or it might pay off a bit more. But there's no guarantee, because as much as uh, as much as people, as much as there might be research that supports this particular thing that has never been fully tested in a way, so people have to go the tried and tested method, and the best way to do that is just to line a few people with a bit of pocket money, probably money that they would have used to pay for something that they used to do. Doesn't matter. Point here is that I see why people do it. It's not right, but it's the world and the community that we live in.
Oh, we know oil will finish. Like it may not finish in our generation, but it will finish. And it's not when it finishes you start finding like alternative means, right? So, but if you find a way to, my point is this: I don't. Let's not go too deep into it. If you act, I personally feel if you actually have that mindset of green, of finding circular, of waste, there's nothing called waste. Like nothing should be waste. There shouldn't be
can
waste, and
I
you have
just
that
add my?
mindset. You will actually make the money.
Sorry, Bill,
That's
I
what I
thought you were
feel.
done.
But it's
Okay.
yeah. Please, Demi.
I want to add my 2 cents. I heard
No, no, I'm done.
something
I'm done.
from a senator I was having a conversation with recently, and she said that we did not leave the Stone Age because we ran out of stones. And that hit me. Like, it wasn't that we couldn't continue with the Stone Age, it became necessary for us to switch. It became for
With
our
that,
own development, our own growth, and our survival, we had to switch. I agree that a lot of the technologies that we try to float for large scale industry are not tested on that scale. And I think that's the real problem. It's not necessarily about the money. Oil and gas, drilling, and so on will still continue. What will reduce their emissions might be carbon capture from their processes. Now, have we deployed carbon capture at a scale large enough for an oil and gas operation? That is the real issue.
exactly.
So I don't think it's about the profits per se, because the profits will still come. They're
Not
still going
yet.
to sell oil and gas. But how do you make it green? Making it green is not to say you abandon it completely, because I don't think that will ever happen. These are deeply entrenched industries that some countries cannot survive without. You take oil and gas
No,
away,
no,
the
no,
Middle
no, no,
East is not going to be what it is.
no. Yeah.
You take it away, some countries in
Okay.
Western Africa won't be that. So it's not going to stop. But the question is, why are they not investing in trying to test these technologies that will likely be beneficial and allow them do their processes in a more sustainable way? I think that's the way I see it. Not that they will
Okay.
not make money or make money. I don't
Longer.
think that will ever change. Shareholders always want to make money. So, and you can't fault them for
Can I
that.
say
That's why
this
they
though?
invested.
Can I say this? First things first. When it comes to those countries that ultimately make their money from oil and gas, they already wow, that's where there's a word I'm trying to say, but it's not coming out. And the wow. Let me just use a lesser word, spreading their wealth in a way.
Yeah.
Like the UAEs and the stuff, they have sovereign wealth fund that they have now
Mm,
started investing in multiple avenues and stuff. So they are in when they look at your approach, one thing I've come to learn is there are multiple ways to skin a cat. So yes, oil and gas ultimately will end one day. Not necessarily like will it finish, not necessarily will it finish
You and
from the
your
ground because
terminologies.
at the end of the day, let's say we even finish all of the possible oil and gas that is in Earth's crust, right? More we ultimately come to be because it's just decomposed bodies. Is carbon that is carbon. But the thing that makes it interesting is that when when the greener solutions or the renewable technologies ultimately get to a stage where they are efficient enough, they are more efficient than your petrols and stuff, and they take over the world. There is to say
mhm,
these people believe that that is not going to happen anytime soon. So one,
mhm,
there's no emergency to it. There's no
mhm.
urgency to it. Two, they believe that they don't have to be the ones to necessarily fix what is wrong with their products. Their job is that wealth that they currently have. How do we sustain it generations to come? They don't necessarily have to fix their problems. They can sustain it through other means by investing in things that is yet to come. And that's why I said ultimately, right, it's about this. It's about like profit. And this is the most important thing when it comes to running businesses that as much as you say that if you do large scale carbon capture, right, you are going green in a way because you are reducing your carbon footprint, you're actually helping the environment. Yes, but that costs them money.
Mhm.
Because guess what? If you do not capture the carbon, I promise you, it costs less to capture carbon than when you just leave it unattended to like go out. Like
It costs less
they
to leave it
in
unattended. Mm.
exactly like they will sit there and they'll be like, we could pay this fine and it will still be cheaper than fixing this. It's simply about money. Everything is if you can increase the fine to the point where it will cost them more to pay the fine than to fix it, they will fix it. It reminds me
But
of the old Apple
Ayo,
and UK thing.
no, Ayo, that's actually what a lot of countries, and I feel like this thing has become a episode about climate, so we need to go back to what we're talking about. But that's what countries are doing. There are countries that have high enough taxes in place. But do you know what's happening to some of them? Instead
Those
of the
fines.
company saying, oh, these taxes are so high, we should be investing in these green
It's not
technologies,
working.
some of the smaller oil companies are falling off. They're falling off
Hmm.
the grid because again, the investment in that is too high and it's too risky. So I think it's a combination
Yeah.
of two things that the technologies, like I said, have not been tested on a scale large enough for you to say, I'm going to put money in it. Business is about investing your money in certainty. If you're going to do
Yes.
uncertainty, it's not going to be a lot of money. You're not going to take your whole
Yeah.
portfolio and put it in an uncertain. At this,
Yeah.
it can't be too risky because your shareholders are going to demand
It can't
their
be too
interest
risky.
back. So I think the
Yeah.
problem is that the technologies that are on the research side, some of them, I'm not saying all of them, I think there's a bit of promise with carbon capture. I think there's a part of Canada that's doing really great with it. Some of them have not scaled well enough for companies to say, we're going to put our money in here. So rather than do that, they're like, we're going to take our profits, pay off our shareholders, and if we're a small company, we're just going to shut down. And that's a real
That's
issue
sad.
that's happening. So it's a
Yeah. No, I
combination
hear
of
you.
both. Like there's the
Yeah.
money thing for sure, but there's also the fact that we need a lot more work on the research side. So I guess this maybe is an encouragement. Kids that are watching this, go study
Yeah.
STEM.
No, 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 no. Forget
and
about the
do
kids.
research.
Somebody pay me to do research. I will do it. Not for free. I will do it. Screw the kids.
I will
This is about
design the
me.
study. I enjoy designing research
So
studies.
I think what I
I
would
enjoy
say
research,
is
purely just research. I don't want to sleep in the lab though, about this thing, but I would if you pay me.
I think what I would say what I picked up from what Chris has said is at
Yeah.
least his life is first things first is exposure. When you're exposed to a lot of things, then you can easily even
Yeah.
identify. Like, if you don't try things out, how will you even know you like it? How would you know you're good at it if you've never even
Hmm.
tried it? So, exposure is
Can
key
we
in just.
can we
I think
ask this that if
that
a
should be
journalist
like
had
a
come with a bigger
fundamental.
car, would he have
Yeah,
gone to
Ayo.
journalism?
You
I
already
believe
asked him
so.
that, and the answer was no.
Yeah,
He
no,
would have said it. I mean,
my
are you
folks,
sure?
yeah, no. I mean, look, my parents were like, so no.
Chris,
So this was that to pay. Are
I have
you?
one question for you because I feel like we might want to wrap up soon.
All right.
If you had an opportunity to change your career now, like with the way the world has evolved, would you? And what if yes, what would you change it to?
Well, with the way the world is evolved, I'm tempted to say yes, and the obvious one is make it a bit more tech enabled or tech reliant, considering the growth potential for the tech industry. I'm not just going to isolate one thing, right? I mean, you'd be tempted to think AI, but look, technology is very much the future. So if I were to change it, I try and integrate some element of tech or something that would give you the skills to thrive in a tech world or tech
In that
driven
particular word, yeah.
much.
Mm,
So
Yeah.
yeah,
that's
It's
interesting.
interesting. It's like, did anybody's like, I think one other thing is
Okay.
maybe in a way it's about trends as much as possible. I feel like right now careers are like when you're a teenager, when you're a kid, careers are almost a gamble. I think it is a gamble. Most things in life are a gamble. So it's not like
Mhm.
it's particularly that's but like it's even more of a gamble. Like whatever could be booming when you were a kid and you see that and you feel like that is now where you put all of your skills, your interest, your passion
Yeah, of
lies into
course.
it. 5 years later, they tell you that AI has taken over. Now you're screwed. So
Mm.
ultimately, what we are trying to say is that become a basketballer, become a footballer, and you'll be fine. Because entertainment will still be here, even when AI is
Yeah.
gone.
Even become a
So
dancer.
stay strong. I mean,
yeah.
I
So
mean,
seriously, because
Yes,
those are things that
they
genuinely don't go away.
no, they
I
don't.
actually Googled this. I'm like, what careers will still be here when AI
Yes.
take over? I like entertainment, dude.
Yeah. For real.
Not, don't be a singer, guys. Don't be a singer.
In that
AIs
case,
will sing better than you.
maybe go
So
to the
don't be a
first
singer. What
the
you can do
first
is maybe be a
profession.
writer. Maybe you can tap deeper into like human subconscious.
Yeah.
AI
What
may write
I'm trying
better
to
than
say is that
human
maybe
beings. Oh.
just going to like maybe it is what
Yeah.
it is, guys.
Anyway, guys,
Yeah.
If you want people
Tell
to read
mention the name of your blog and
your
everything.
poor blogs, if you want people to support your writing, and maybe you will
Yeah,
switch
yeah,
careers
yeah,
from the
for
support.
sure, for sure. So I think I'm gonna send you guys the links to this as well. But
Okay.
and this is something that Victor knows about. Like it's a project that I began couple of years ago, roped him in as well. The program is called Safiko, and the blog is Safiko Insights. So it's insights, but with green instead of in. So that just speaks
Mm.
about the state of the circular economy and everything that's happening in it, new trends, innovations, technologies, etc. Building a portfolio for now, just like to see what kind of skills and knowledge you can get and how we can apply that in a business sense. So yeah, basically, lookout world, future green. I don't know. I want to say oligarch, but
Yeah,
that
that
sounds.
sounded cliche.
Yeah, yeah,
We,
yeah,
we
yeah.
will cut that part out. We will cut it
We'll
out.
cut that part out. We'll
I
do
like
post
that.
production,
Yeah.
but yeah, like green pioneer in Africa, because I believe
Yes,
that
that's a
Africa
good one.
has the biggest potential. So yes,
okay. Thank you, Chris, for the
no.
time
Like
Thank you
and for
guys
the
so much for
insights.
having
Really?
I've been doing
Yeah,
I
that
and
think I
for
was
comparing with
a long
Ayo,
time. Remember, we studied together. We're pretty
no,
good
it's a
friends. So
pleasure.
yes, I know what he can get like. So thanks for not changing, bro. It's good to see you're still the same.
good to see you too. Why are you throwing me under the bus?
Chris,
You've
please
joined the
don't thank
community.
him. We are trying to encourage him to change. You know.
No, but like, look,
See,
there's a certain charm that it brings with being around
please,
you. Like,
please.
it's
I
you
love
wouldn't
you.
understand it till you see it in different settings, I guess. Like I've seen it in many different settings, and yeah, it's still got that thing, right? So there's a certain charm
Ah,
to your
did you hear
character.
that? I've got
Please
that thing. The thing
keep
you
it up.
cannot even quantify.
You can't even shut up while someone is praising you.
No, that's what I mean.
I,
That's what I
I,
mean.
I had to, I had to ginger it now.
As in,
I had to put the spice on top of the crazy. It's not a full meal without spice.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you guys. We are done. Okay, guys, let's leave.
All
We are
right.
doing too much.